Oop. And we are live. The numbers are ticking. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. How are we all? Well, certainly in the UK, we've had a very, very interesting last 24 hours or so. Well, I'd say 48 hours or so, really. Much of what we've got to talk about today has really been taking place within the 2 weeks or so. So, oh yeah, we've got some of you coming in now. Oh, 10. Excellent, excellent. Good morning to you all. However, before we get on to... oh, Gene T, good morning to you. So, before we... Oh, good morning. From Cowben, good morning. Tempest, good morning to you. Good morning to everyone joining us. Another fantastic morning to have a good morning walk, even though I think it's going to probably rain today at some point on today's walk. However, first things first, as always, pretty much a US election wrap-up, really. As of last week, where we were saying Biden's pretty much won, from what we can see now, I think it was, which state was it that confirmed last night? Might be Arizona. Arizona is now confirmed for Biden. And I think Georgia is probably looking like it's going to go to Biden as well. Yeah, Georgia. So, yeah, Georgia pretty much confirmed for Biden. So... First of all, we have to acknowledge just how incredible that is, especially for Georgia, because Georgia was always typically and has been known as a red state. Now, this state turning blue, and especially Arizona as well, clearly indicates that there are changing times in those two states. And if the Democrats really want to take advantage of this, especially at the next election, they need to definitely secure up those two states and make sure that those continue blue, because very likely if they continue that and encourage what happened in those states with those progressive groups and the polling groups, which were basically encouraging people to go out. Carry on while I do my washing up. Sure. So yeah, it's potentially it does look like this is it. It does look like populism is indeed dying, and but it's not. It's not too early, shall we say, to put it down for the count, because there's one thing we haven't talked about before, and I'm going to do a video about it in this coming week, is what's been going on in Poland. Because if you followed anything about what's been going on in Poland, what are they called now? The Law and Justice Party. Pretty much, very much a very, very nationalist movement, doing all sorts of very, very worrying things in Poland. But they banned abortion. And I think this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But since then, not only women in Poland, but men as well have been joining in protesting pretty much every single day for them to overturn this. And if you want to keep an eye on like a country at the moment as to like how things are going and progressing, Poland is definitely a good place to watch. Oh, Ben, a very good morning. My Saturday routine has begun. Good morning from the Pacific Northwest. Good morning to you. Well, you can officially say today that America is far more sensible than the UK. Definitely a lot more sensible than the UK. You've elected an adult, shall we say? Oh, and good morning to Paz News there as well. Oh. Good morning to you all. Please do remember to hit that like button as well. Gets more of you in. We can have more of a chat then as well with more people. So there were interesting story this morning that I read. Apparently Donald Trump nearly came close to acknowledging his defeat. And I don't think he's going to, at least not yet. I think he's going to hold on for as long as he has. Love the title of today's chat. Yeah, well, it's going to be our main talking point today after we've discussed America. But yeah, and of course there's been a lot of talk about, will Donald Trump be able to pull off a coup? And he can't, but of course, that if you've read a lot of this, there have been a lot of opinion pieces going either way on this, saying that he can, that he can't. It's yeah. So it's very interesting times, certainly in America, but I think things are out for America in terms of politics are about to get a lot more boring, shall we say, with Joe Biden. So if you are American and you want to look upon a country that's probably next year about to experience the absolute international humiliation, I suppose that's the best way to put it, just tell your friends to tune into the good old UK and just see how bad things are getting. So obviously last night it was confirmed that Dominic Cummings will be leaving at Christmas, and he left Downing Street, from what we understand from the news reports today, that he left Downing Street for the last time, and he's going to work from home up until Christmas. Now, here's the thing, this isn't all that surprising. Dominic Cummings had said previously in the past he would stay until Brexit is done. Now, this could mean that Cummings knows what's being negotiated at the moment, and that we could see very soon what this deal is going to, and what is going to be in this deal. And of course, as we said before many times, a lot of the direction of which way Boris was going to jump, whether he was going to jump for a no deal or still try and negotiate with the EU, was entirely, pretty much, his decision was based on which way the next election would go. We've already had reports from people inside and close to Boris that if Trump had won, Boris would have seen it as history going his way, and that this is and that he was in the right decision just to take the UK onto the path of no deal. Now, of course, that's not what has happened. Biden has definitely won. There's no there's no doubt, shall we say, even though, oh my word, the coping that you've seen from some people on the right to Donald Trump's loss has been absolutely fantastic. Especially a guy called John Doyle. He has based his entire brand around Donald Trump's presidency and wanted essentially 4 more years of conservative grifting, and that appears now to be put an end to his plans. So who knows what's going to happen to him? And we've got to think now, this Cummings departure really starts about 2 weeks ago, because apparently it has been rumoured and suggested, shall we say, that Cummings and his mate Liam Kane, or Cummings and Kane, have been the ones who have been responsible for all this leaking that's been going on in 10 Downing Street recently. So that's very interesting, because there has clearly been a rift forming for some time, and what has been causing this rift, I highly suspect that it is Brexit, because Cummings was definitely in the camp of like the supreme Brexiteers. If you remember going back to when Boris got in and there was all the hoo-ha about Cummings joining his staff, old Nigel and Dominic were elated at the fact that that Cummings was going into Downing Street and joining the Downing Street machine, because they said he was one of their guys. Now that proves some very interesting information, because what if, shall we say, Dom's seen the writing on the wall, knows what's being discussed in that deal. Again, we don't know what's in this deal. There was last week meant to be another deadline that we have missed for trying to pass a deal. And it's very likely that government officials, we heard news last week that I can't remember his name now, one of the politicians on TV had hinted that the UK was going to be backing down on its promises to protect fish. So that's not surprising, because why would you go to the wall for an industry that is, as we've said before, is worth less than 0.01% of our GDP, when you've got companies like AstraZeneca who rely on the European Union and the single market and all the processes that are in place to protect mutual standards and recognitions that provide about 1% of our GDP. Which company would you go to the wall for? The entire fishing industry or AstraZeneca? And every time the real answer is AstraZeneca, by the way, because no one in their right mind would commit to doing that. Oh, Andy here. Just happy that Dom is out. The damage that Matt has done to our country has ruined the rest of my working life. It's not. He has certainly done damage, and it's going to be with us for some time to come. But the interesting thing now is that there has been a power struggle within Number 10, and we have to ask that question: what has this power struggle been about? We've already heard a couple of MPs that are elated that Boris has gone, and they are hoping, and they have said and gone on the record, that they can try and get the old Boris back. So what does that mean when they say we can get the old Boris back? Well, essentially what they're trying to say is they're trying to get election Boris back. The Boris who was big, verbose, made, passionate speeches to the base and got them all riled up. That's essentially, apparently, the Boris they want back. But you can't continue with that Boris, because the idea of Johnsonism, I suppose we'll have to be calling it, is Johnsonism is taking the stance of making, sweeping pledges, but not actually having to follow through on them with policy. Just this week, the spending review has started, and it's quite important that, especially if you're in the north, you can on this, because we will be able to see now if Johnson and his cronies are going to, stick to the promises, and are they going to fulfil their promises to level up the north. I think with everything going on at this moment in time, there is absolutely no chance Tories are going to spend any money on the north whatsoever. And this is quite funny, because a lot of these, what they're being called now blue wall conservatives, are pretty much pinning their election hopes on that. Know someone else happy to see that Cummings has gone there? I'm happy to see Cummings has gone. I have my concerns about what he'll do next, and where he may be less visible. I think it's pretty obvious Cummings is going to remain, shall we say, in the background of politics for at least some time to come. But you are right, it's where will he end up? Where's he going to go? At the end of the day, we just don't know. Oh, that was a bit of a rhyme. So it's interesting in terms of when you look at it for this power struggle. What is going to happen? Because it's very evident there has that power struggle being going on. And you've also got to take that we've been hearing the music from 10 Downing Street for a while, that Boris is also going to go after Christmas. So, as most of you know, for the past couple of weeks, I've always been saying Johnson has sort of 3 departure dates. And that is the first at Christmas, the second will be sometime after Christmas, and then the third is somehow Boris Johnson's amazing cockroach-like unkillability remains active, and somehow Boris manages to remain until the next general election, but doesn't run as leader of the Conservative Party. Rather, a new PM will be chosen before that election. And with Cummings gone, and of course Kane gone as well, 2 of his at least longest, especially with Kane, his longest supporting ally gone as well, the writing is very much on the wall that very soon Boris could be gone. The question is when, and how much of a fanfare he can do to say, mission accomplished, guys, and do the whole George Bush thing. Probably won't be on the aircraft carrier, but he'll probably be outside Downing Street, and he'll probably say, good job, guys, mission accomplished, job done, we're out of the EU, that's what I wanted to do, so now I'm going to go. Aye, the scouring of Barnsley. Probably. It's hard to tell, which way the Tory party is going to go. I definitely think the money for who will replace Boris is going to be Grovey. I think Grovey is probably the best bet for this. I don't think Rishi's going to survive too much longer, because I think even though he had lots of support initially, it's very clear that he has lost a lot of popularity because of his winter economic recovery plan. And that definitely, in my mind, puts Michael Gove, I keep on calling him Grovey, it puts him in the lead for essentially the number one pick. Because especially next year, that's going to be the big challenge. Oh. Oh, Tony Blair's joining us. So we've got a very interesting, scenario here of what happens next. And everything I'm going to tell you is pretty much, crystal ball gazing at this. But it's one of those, you don't know what, of course, is going to happen. And that's part of the, I want to say it's part of the interesting nature of the times of what's going on. Because it's very likely now, I highly suspect, is this. I think in the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to see the EU deal and what that is going to contain. So, first things first, because Cummings has gone, and because he's been seen as essentially like the cheerleader for a no-deal Brexit in number 10, it could very well be likely that the Brexiteers aren't going to be happy with the deal that Boris has done. And I think it's very obvious, as we've mentioned a number of times, Boris has put himself in an unusual position where no matter what deal he gets from the EU, he has to betray someone, he has to stab someone in the back. And it's just a matter of who and what, and we will probably know as soon as we get news of that EU deal. But with two of probably the most, hardcore, shall we say, levers and his closest allies in number 10 gone, this leaves a massive doorway open as to what happened. There's been a lot of people who have been saying recently this could really signal a U-turn on Brexit, and to what form of Brexit the Conservatives are going to do, because it's very, very clear. As some of you may have seen recently, I posted the letter that was sent to HMRC by the group that was developing the customs border arrangements for Northern Ireland and their essentially their whole IT systems that were being developed. And essentially it came down to, it's not going to be ready. You haven't helped in our development of this in any way. And essentially, if we release it, it will cause us unbelievable reputational damage. And as a result, we're not going to continue developing for you. So this sent, I think, huge waves to the Conservative Party, because they've all seen it before. They all know about it. We know the disaster that is going to be on the ball, and I think that there has to be some sort of you know, I don't know, there's going to be some sort of crisis that happens, and I think the Conservatives at the moment are so worried that they're up to that. They've governed themselves into this quagmire, and they can't govern themselves out of it. And we'll just have to see what happens. Who was that? Pie Man. I doubt Boris will leave. Think Boris is ready to concede to the EU on all their demands for a trade deal, but this will piss off many leavers and give Nigel Farage and his new party a boost. Yeah, you are right. I do think there will have to be concessions made. Oh, someone from Shanghai joining us. Oh, good morning. Someone else there joining us. How was that? Conservator, good morning. And it could literally be that the problems posed by the leaving the EU and the no deal has forced Conservatives to go, even in their absolute fugue of wanting to leave the EU, have basically no option. Oh, there we go. Oh yes, we've got ponies for those of you who love the ponies. Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, all right. I think there's going to be something's going to have to change, and I think with Cummings going, I think there is something going to have to change. Son of Vikings just said probably an extension. I think that's definitely on the cards. This could be an almighty climb down, and this could possibly happen because remember, Boris did say this, that we would not be leaving the single market at the referendum, and that this is one of the things that the Leave campaign promised, that we would not be leaving the single market. So maybe there's enough panic in the Conservative ranks to go, we've steered from crisis to crisis to crisis, and we just can't afford another crisis. So we're just going to go, sod it, we're going to stay in the single market. Could potentially happen. It's definitely on the cards, but no one's been saying or mooting any whispers about it. So obviously no one mentioned it, but could be on the cards. If the Conservatives feel strongly enough that them avoiding all this potential disaster coming up because of Brexit, then they very well just might likely go, well, we're just going to join the single market. And you are right, as someone just said there, staying in the single market solves all the problems. The only thing is that then the Conservatives cannot then follow through on their own plans to just deregulate the country even more. Because that's what a lot of Brexit was really about, getting out of the EU and essentially just making Britain a low tax, low regulation country. Conservatives says they don't care about another crisis. I think they do. And I think it has, as I've very often said, writing to your MP very often does more than you think. Because I think they have been absolutely bombarded, especially the blue wall Conservatives in the north have been absolutely bombarded by people saying, how could you do this to my son and daughter on their GCSE level stuff, their A level stuff? Look what you've done to my son, he's trapped at university. How, what are you doing on, feeding children? And yes, there was a U-turn on that, but over 320 MPs voted against that, which is absolutely unbelievable, only for Boris Johnson to essentially just do a U-turn on it. It's unbelievable. And they've governed themselves into this mess. And as in an article I read this week, they're just not fit for it. So with Cummings gone, the other thing we have to consider, and definitely consider, is will there be a cabinet reshuffle? This could definitely be something that's on the cards. Now it's who goes and who stays. That's the big things. Hancock might go. He'd definitely be, if he was swapped out for someone else, I'd definitely pick Hancock as a swap. Jerrick, the housing minister, he's had a lot of scandal around him, so Jerrick could probably go as well. Priti Patel, I think, would stay. Gove would definitely stay. Like I say, I think he's definitely the after Boris, he's the anointed successor, I'd say now. There's no doubt. Would Rishi go? Definitely an interesting talking point. And with his loss of popularity, there is a chance that Rishi could go and someone else be brought in. But that's, I feel like we're playing fantasy football at the moment. Fantasy cabinet football, that's it. That's what it feels like at the moment. But yeah, we don't know on that front. And then it's who would Boris bring in? That's the next interesting question. And I don't know who he would bring in, because I can't think of anyone from the current crop of Conservatives who has proposed any ideas out of this mess. It's unbelievable, but there you go. Not only that, but we've also had potentially the fracturing of the Tory party. And we've said this before, that when the Tory party fractures, it becomes weak and defeated, and we've seen that during these past couple of weeks. But Jeremy Hunt possibly, he could go, but maybe. So someone asked a very good question there. Did Cummings leave because Biden got in as president? Possibly. I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. And as you said just earlier, the fact that Biden has now got in means that Boris is going to have to go and seek a deal with the EU, and that means climbing down on a lot of his promises that he made. There's no way he can keep his promises to the fishermen, because there's no way anyone would go to the wall for an industry that's worth less than 1%. It's just physically impossible. We've got a lot. Oh, yeah. Getting a phone call there. We've got a lot of, we are talking, like I said, I must reiterate that when we're talking about this stuff now, we are, unless we get gospel, the word of gospel from someone in number 10 or something like that, everything that we're talking about here is absolute speculation and rumour, essentially. We don't know what's going to happen. Like I say, with just earlier, we were pretty much playing, fantasy football with the cabinet. And like I say, it is possible that they could go. And of course, we've seen very recently that all the Conservatives have now ended up splitting into groups. There's the Northern Research Group, there's the Common Sense Group, there's obviously the ERG still there. Oh, and what's the third one now? That's it, the Lockdown Recovery Group. And these are now 4 groups within the party. This has now created parties within the parties, all with very, very different objectives, who want different things. Like the Common Sense Group. Oh my God, this is so ridiculous. They have said that they are ready to fight the culture war. Are we really going to have a culture war? Please do remember, in like a couple of years' time, when the Conservatives are crying about culture war politics or that they're losing the culture war, because they always do, please do remember that it was them who started it. Please do remember that fact. Is there a pro-EU Tory group? No. But these groups are definitely going to cause trouble, not only for Boris, but also his, also his future successor. A lot of the blue wall Conservatives are in the Northern Research Group because they want the government to keep their promises about levelling up the North. Now, very obviously, that is not in the Tory agenda or even in their ideology to actually go and spend money in the North. They just won't do it because next year we're going to see austerity on steroids. If you thought the last 10 years were bad because of austerity, you ain't seen nothing yet. They're going to make, this is going to make, this is going to make the, there we go. Oh, there we go, back. Sorry about that. It is going to make all those awful 10 years look like fantastic years of plenty. And it's going to be an absolute shocker. It's going to be an absolute shocker when it happens. Anyway, who is this? Steve. Greetings from South Korea. I want to... no, that's Japanese. I can't remember how I say good morning in South Korean now. But yes, good to you. So, greetings from South Korea. A few out here support Brexit because they want the pound to shrink so they can get a better exchange rate. And one, I think they should be used badly because of long lines. Yeah, that is probably ultimately what's going to happen. Flash mood. Could a Brexit deal pass the House of Commons? Depends what happens. I mean, you are right. If Boris does come back with a deal that has essentially climbed down on all his concessions, a lot of the new Conservative MPs were voted in to make... Sorry. And he does have, yeah, you are right, he does have an 80-seat majority. It's a very large majority, so he could, he could make it happen, but it depends how many people just say, no, that isn't the Brexit we wanted. So this could be, this could be very, very difficult for Boris to actually pass through. And, he may not need to go through Parliament, but I think he's going to have to try and, and then the scrutiny is going to kick in. And then we're going to see just how bad this deal really is. Because it's very likely that from the 1st of January next year, we will be trading on WTO rules, which is essentially a no deal, while our government continues to try and get this deal passed. They've already missed numerous deadlines to try and get this deal passed. They've just missed one this week. So there's no chance, even if they do the deal, the EU then has to approve it. So there's going to be that time lag of the EU approving it. So even if we do get a deal, we could be, it could be halfway through to next year to the deal actually being, announced and put in place. And that is going to ruin our economy so very much. And even with that deal in place, just as with the Japan deal, economists have been, going through it with a fine tooth comb. And we've gone through all those videos every time a new release has come out about it, just how bad that deal really is. So this isn't going to, this is not going to make the Brexiteers, I think, very happy. But the Brexiteers do thrive on a narrative of betrayal. So that is definitely one thing that the Brexiteers do like, and that could definitely possibly happen. Anyway, Steve replied. Oh, there we go. So they know about the coming long lines at EU airports, so they're not too thrilled with it. You think England residents would know this too, but yeah, you'd think they would. But as we covered just this week, the Brexiteers aren't, or shall we say the Brexit supporters, aren't too happy that they're going to have to wait in line at these European airports. And you are right, Andrew, it is going to be an absolute bloodbath. The question is who's going to betray who, and who knows what's going to happen. It's going to be absolute ridiculous. So, Conservator, even with a deal, we'll shrink about 5% according to the GDP. Exactly, that's a lot. And even if we had a deal, even if we got like a soft Brexit deal, that would be about 2%. And one of the economists who commented on that, even if you lose like 2% of your GDP, that's still a big number. That's still a big number to lose, because trying to put policies in place, especially economic policies in place, to try and sort that out, is going to be it's going to be an uphill battle. An absolute uphill battle. But there you go. Very, very interesting times indeed. So, oh wow, we've almost got 120 of you watching. Please do remember to hit that like button. It does help out the live stream and helps get more people in, and we get to have more conversations. So remember, hit that like button. Also, if you would like to support the channel a different way, down below you will see a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link, which is buy me a coffee, because it's very, very cold today. So it's not looking good for Boris on the Brexit front. 2% is our commitment to NATO. Yeah, you are right there. Oh, hang on. I've got to slip by the ponies here. Oops, a daisy. I don't know why they're all gathered up here. But there you go. Yeah, and that's what the funny thing is going to be, because there's going to be from immediately, like the 1st of January next year, there is going to be absolute chaos at the border. And next year, the Brexiteers have nowhere to hide. You know, the reality that we've been warning about and has been, you know, knocking the door for so long, saying, you know, are you aware that this is going to happen? You know, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. It's going to be a mess, and there will be nowhere for the Brexiteers to hide. You know, we will just sit back and just go, well, we told you so. And it's going to be an absolute mess. Oh, yeah, you just don't know. We just don't know the mess we are letting ourselves into. It's going to be unbelievable. Oh, what's this? Pale Horse. Do you think the new daily briefing might start in January to cover the border mess, so that we look at that instead of Parliament? I don't think that will change much. Like I say, them getting this new press secretary they've got is pretty much a redundant position. This is being put forward so essentially Boris doesn't get asked awkward questions, because Boris doesn't like being asked questions. You know, this is, you know, typical nonsense. But yeah, I very, very much doubt it. They won't be able to cover it up because, you know, and even if they do like daily briefings, you know, our journalists are a lot more active and turned on, are definitely going to challenge what he said in that briefing and versus what he said in Parliament. So this new dynamic that Boris thinks he's bringing in just to avoid tough questions is only going to make matters worse for him, because the journalists are going to question like mad at these daily press briefings. You know, what the hell is going on at the border? What do you intend to do about it? And they're not going to have any answers, because they don't have any answers for it now. You know, this is problems that we have said were going to occur from day one. And because of that, you know, they haven't listened and have, as Michael Gove said, we're not prepared to listen to experts. And as Tony Blair once said, sooner or later, you are going to need those experts. You know, you know, a lot of experts would be great at helping to solve out this problem. And as someone else just said earlier in chat, all our problems would be solved if we stayed in the single market and customs union. That would be it. That would be problem solved. But the Tories, and especially the Brexiteer Tories, do not want that, because their agenda is essentially to make the UK the Singapore on the Thames. And that will just, you know, that's not going to be good for pretty much 99% of our the people who live in this country. So, there we go. bit of a slippy mud there. There we go. So yeah, it really does not look good. We have all the warning signs of impending disaster are there. It's just if Boris will actually do anything about it. But this is typical Tory short-sightedness. They don't want to seem to plan ahead for things. You know, we've had this, you know, the border control system is a perfect example. We had over 4 years to try and get a system in place, and yet they've only started at the beginning of this year. Oh, morning. So, and I did love that I had a lot of... Oh, we've had a super chat and I've missed it. Oh, here, flash mood. An espresso from Italy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your support there, Flash. I do, like I say, thank you very much to the people who do support me. Your support is very, very much appreciated. But yeah, we are in this bizarre time, and it really is, you know, centre stage for so much stuff that could happen. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about last week, but we didn't really talk about it much because of the US election stuff that was going on. Pieman, the Reform Party, being the party of democratic reform and PR with a populist right-wing leader, Farage might be a winning combination, potentially. But as I've said before, we need to be very, very aware of what Farage potentially is going to do with PR. Because if PR, as has been shown multiple times on predictions based on election results, that essentially the Tories would never be in power. They'd never ever get more than, I think it's like 30% of the vote, which means they would never be have the majority to be in power. But parties like Labour, Lib Dem, even the Greens would have very good opportunities of not only being the main party in power, but also forming coalitions as well to get stuff done. Now, of course, that's not how our parliament works. Our parliament is very, very anti parties working with each other to get stuff done. And even our system of parliamentary democracy, just the culture within Parliament itself, just stops that unity of bringing parties together to get done. So, like I say, I've said before, PR would be a massive turnaround in our country. But if Nigel Farage is leading that charge, then we have to be careful about what it is he is suggesting. Because while, and this is it, me and Nigel agree that proportional representation would be good for this country, what we would probably disagree on is the outcomes. And that is what Nigel is suggesting versus what I might suggest. Now, at the moment, we have heard nothing on this front as to what he actually wants to do. So we're going to have to wait and definitely see when the Reform Party, if they're called the Reform Party, that is, because they've had a complaint lodged against another parliamentary group, a think tank called Reform, has challenged their name and doesn't want them to be called that because they're also called Reform, but obviously Nigel wants to be Reform UK. So that could essentially scupper his name. So we're just going to have to wait and see what it is. But I'm definitely going to do a video, because I think it needs to be done, about some of the myths that surround proportional representation in the UK. Because I think some of those myths need to be addressed. Essentially, if we're going to go and take PR forward, that's the way we need to go. Oh, and by the way, if you are in the UK and you do want proportional representation, then definitely join the campaign called Labour for PR. They are and have been the #1 group pushing for proportional representation in the UK, and they've been doing a fantastic job doing it. So if you want to support them on that, go and join them on that. So as always, please do start sending your questions in. Yeah, Lawrence Fox and his anti-lockdown party. Yeah, like I say, third parties in the UK are absolutely useless just because of how our system is. First past the post, it will, parties spend decades trying to get any recognition and any MPs in. Like I say, the Green Party has spent decades, trying to win seats, and then they finally got Caroline Lucas in for their seat. But and she's been in Parliament for well over a while now, and yet the Greens have never had more than her in power. So it just goes to show you, even with a party that's been around as long as the Green Party, it takes a heck of a lot to actually try and get MPs into power. So there's this. Oh. So I heard from Phil, a different bias, that the chief executive that designs the software for post-Brexit customs agreements has written a strongly worded letter that solution is not going to be provided for Northern Ireland for trade. Yeah, we've already been over that, Shane, just earlier on the stream, but I'll just go over it again. Yeah, that letter pretty much summed up of, we're not going to do it because of the problems of reputational damage, and it's going to damage our reputation. And even if we did try to continue for your tight deadlines, it's not going to be until the end of 2021, and even then it might not be a fully working system. So and I had a ton of people who were IT experts and in the IT field commenting on that post, all saying they're absolutely mad. There's no way any IT company can do that in that time. It's just sheer madness to think that they can actually try and achieve that in time. But there you go. So like I say, it is question time. So do remember to put the @ symbol at me, so I'll be able to see it more clearly. Or you can send me a super chat, and I'll definitely be able to see it then. Someone else saying here that we need a written constitution. We do. We are desperately in need of a written constitution. And someone else here, so FSM. The last project I worked on took 18 months. So, like I say, that's the wonderful thing. You look at any, and all the IT professionals, not only under my, and I posted the letter in full, but also under Phil's video as well. All the IT professionals were coming out and saying, yeah, that's not going to happen. No chance. Oh, this one. This one for Hack, I think that's how you say it. Ball Hatman. Are Irish people included in the new points-based immigration system? Yes. Yes, essentially they are. Anyone who wants to immigrate to the UK now has to essentially, I think you have to have about 70 or 80 points for this new system to come in place. So, and like I say, it's it's going to stop a lot of, and it's so bizarre because the Tories have been the party of cheap foreign labour. They've actively encouraged it, and it hasn't so much. The truth is that it hasn't affected people in the working class. There's this whole lie you'll constantly hear right-wingers say of, they're stealing our jobs. Yeah. No, there's no evidence to suggest that they are doing that at all. And indeed, an EU migrant was far better than a non-EU migrant. Not only did they provide more in taxes, they took less out of the system. And one of the things that you often hear right-wingers say is, oh, asylum seekers coming and undercutting our, our native wages. Well, here's a thing we can do. So the minimum wage for asylum seekers is actually lower than the national wage. Now, the argument is, when you ever hear someone say that, just say to them, well, should we raise asylum seekers' wage to match the national minimum wage so that then asylum seekers can't undercut British workers? If that is your claim, then that is something you should support. And very often they'll go, no, 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 we can't do that for other reasons. It's bizarre. You provide them a solution and they don't accept the solution. Anyway, this is from Steve. I asked earlier about Scotland investigating Trump over this golf course money. That is a possibility, but like I say, Trump went into office is the only president to enter office with the most lawsuits after him. So it's not only Scotland that's after a piece of Donald, shall we say, and I think it was, can't remember who said it, but Donald Trump's future is pretty much being destitute and penniless. So even if he wants to start this new anti-Fox News, he's going to have a hard time trying to start it. But if his supporters are gullible enough, they'll definitely fund him. And yeah, it's possible that if Scotland does get him for tax evasion, they will just seize all his property in Scotland. That is a very possibility of that happening, which will be incredibly funny. So, Pale Horse. How important is Cummings seen to be leaving important for EU negotiations? Cummings has always been touted, especially by the Brexiteers, as their man on the inside. He was seen by them to be the guy who was pushing the no-deal option, the hardest in Boris, and the one to be pushing forward that no-deal agenda. So the fact that we've not only had Kane and Cummings leave as well, who were two key profile members in the Vote Leave campaign, I think this is making a lot of Brexiteers very nervous. And it is very likely that Cummings knows what is being negotiated and knows that this ain't going to be good. So it could be very well be that he just wants to, like a rat leaving the drowning ship, he'll just abandon it as fast as he possibly can. So he could be getting while the getting is good, essentially. But this does signal definite possible change in the EU deal. But it will be that Britain definitely has to have a massive climb down on its negotiating stance. So FSM, they take years to develop. It's the old project manager idea of 9 months can produce idea of what was it? 9 women can produce a baby in a month. Right. never heard that one before, but I'll take your word for it. Oh, Pie Man. Oh, there we are, Pie Man. So, what are your thoughts on Labour's NEC elections? Your thoughts on Starmer in general? I've said this before. The left needs to be bigger than just one person. So, as I'm sad that yes, Corbyn is no longer in the Labour Party, what we have to remember is that the left in the UK has never been more in a strong position than it ever has before. Not only did we have Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party, but we also had actual proper left-wing MPs in the Labour Party and voted in. And it infuriates me that you see a lot of the fringes on the left, people in the Canary, for example, push heavily for essentially just telling people outright to leave the Labour Party, and that they are then going to challenge Starmer in a year's time for leadership. It is absolutely ridiculous. Because to vote, they're going to have to rejoin the Labour Party. And like I say, the NEC elections, they went as pretty much as I might expect. Although I must admit, I can't remember off the top of my head who got in. But yeah, on Starmer himself, I'm very much pretty with him at the moment. But sooner or later, he needs to actually start to put out his vision for Britain and what that means for the UK in general. And that means he's going to have to put out policy. And I fully understand both arguments on this side. Because there's one camp that says if he puts out any policy now, there's basically going to be rubbished, because the UK is going to be in an absolute hole, and essentially Starmer won't be able to introduce those policies. But on the other hand, if he waits, he can then put out policies which will help to get Britain out of this hole. So I do understand the arguments on both sides of that argument, and I am very much of the opinion that we have to wait and see what he's going to do. But he did say that the 2017 manifesto, which again was lauded by a lot of leftists as a good manifesto, was a good place to start for Labour. So, he may be more left than people think. And just before we finish this, as I've said to people before, don't abandon the Labour Party. Do not abandon all those MPs that we've gotten in from Momentum and being, socialist, leftist, progressive, MPs. We can't abandon them. We've got to be in there, support them, and get more of those people in as MPs. It is better to have 1 foot in the door than 2 feet outside. And we can do more to help push the Labour Party to the left and get proper leftist ideas and stuff into the Labour Party, but we are going to have to make compromises. So that means that we don't get everything we want, but that means we do get some things we want. And sometimes 50% is better than 100%. Yes, it's upsetting that you don't get everything you want, but at least you got some of the stuff you want. So that's what the Labour left needs to do, learn a bit of pragmatism. So I hope that's answered your question. From Dude. The point system is all about, do you have a guarantor? Basically, you only get in if you know someone. So how about starting a charity that sponsors everyone just to break it? Possibly, but I won't be the one to start it. That could be. I can definitely foresee a lot of legal troubles for that charity if they do start that. But yeah, that would be quite funny. Oh yeah, that's true as well. Frost might be going as well. You are right, Calvin. That is one of the rumours that is going around at the moment. So if Frost goes, that could be even more interesting, because that is another very hard right Brexiteer and hard right Brexit supporter that is gone from the cabinet and from banished, shall we say, from number 10. So it looks like Boris might be cleaning house of all the hard Brexiteers, because he might have to start actually coming down on his promises. Oh, greetings from Germany. It's difficult enough to understand Brexit, but it's totally impossible to understand Labour and its struggles. True. Oh, someone there. Hi from Dublin. Sad things I can see the Tories winning a small minority in 2024 because what about Labour? Well, I do hope, to be honest, that by that time people will be fed up, because I think that the current Tory party has shown that they just cannot govern full of the money. Not only that, but Boris was one of the key people who basically threw out all the people who can govern properly and have at least some knowledge about governing properly. Labour will have to lose at least 2 times before they back PR. I don't know, we'll have to see. Oh, here's someone else, Pale Horse again. How do you think Starmer can highlight the Brexit mess without coming up in January, without being accused of playing politics in a crisis, because the media have ignored his points over lockdown? I think Starmer's been doing an absolute perfect job in what he's been doing in highlighting Boris's failures. And, you know, the media have very much highlighted that fact that he has been on point. You know, Starmer was calling for another lockdown weeks before Boris said, and lo and behold, it turned out he was right. Like I say, this is it. PMQs. Starmer has been doing an absolute fantastic job in taking Boris to task, and it is someone at the moment who we need. We need the leader of the Labour Party and the opposition to be taking the government to task over their failings. So even then, you know, this is one thing that Starmer got criticised for, but he's not talking about Brexit. When it's come up, he just said, well, it's Boris's mess to sort out. It's up to him to sort it out. I'm not going to say anything about it. So when all this Brexit mess does happen, Starmer can just turn around and just point, this is all Boris's fault. I've got nothing to do with it. I didn't try and stop him. You know, it was him who said, you know, he was going to get Brexit done. This is the Brexit that he got done. So, in a way, him not talking about it is a valuable asset to him, I suppose. But he has been doing incredible in PMQs. So, I think as long as he keeps on hammering Boris the way he's done, I think that he is setting up very possibly for a Labour government. So Patrick H, I joined Labour in January because I couldn't see Labour surviving under Corbyn or his heir apparent being left. Is all very well, but you need to get elected to make a difference. You are right. I said this before. Even during the elections, the biggest problem that Corbyn had was selling leftism, and a lot of these policies, when they are brought to people under a non-partisan flag, they are very popular policies. So they just had, as I said, the left had a problem with messaging, and that's definitely something they need to sort out going forward. At least can you move the camera so we don't look at my nose much? Yeah, it just depends. My arm gets tired. I'll start up here, but then it'll just end up down here because my arm gets tired. Conservator, the hard left has trouble making compromises. Yep, 100% true. The hard left does have trouble making compromises. And that is to their detriment. They need to learn, you know, as I said, it's better to have a foot in the door than 2 feet outside. Labour can only win if it takes a centralist approach. The too far left, Labour will never win. I disagree. I do think that if Corbyn had had better messaging, I think he would have absolutely cakewalked the last election. I just think, again, the problem was his messaging that he had. Oh. There we go. Someone's put the gate in the way. So another one. Pyman has taken Labour has taken the working class for granted for too long, but the Tories offer is little to the working class in reality after 10 years of Tory rule. Yeah, like I say, the vast majority of people did vote for the Tories exclusively because of getting Brexit done, and it was pitched as this is the almost a second de facto referendum. But there you go, and a lot of people are going to learn quickly this is why you don't elect Tories. Will Boris last until 2021? Yes. But we'll have to see. But all the music we're hearing coming out of Number 10 is that Boris is on his way out. We just don't know when. I highly suspect it will be after Christmas. Maybe March, April time, and he'll do the whole George Bush mission accomplished thing. Oh, this is a good point. Can Boris even govern without Cummings at his side? Is he going to call Cummings up at 5 a.m. in the morning saying, "Help me, help me"? Starmer is asking too many hard questions during PMQs. Probably. I've said for a long while that Boris would never get rid of Cummings because Boris doesn't have a plan. And the man without the plan never gets the man with the plan, and that man was Cummings. So with him gone, what is Johnsonism going to become? Essentially, it very much is like Johnsonism is going to become making promises and not being able to deliver on those promises. Yeah, you are right there, Pyman. He said, just to read your comment out, agree it's so much more constructive to stay in the Labour Party, but unfortunately too many on the left made Corbyn a personality cult rather than a guiding ideology. Yep, exactly. The left and the left in general has to be bigger than one person. Has to be bigger than one person, or else we're just not going to get anywhere. And you've seen that today. Do it again. How come Labour ain't, doing something like anything, organising protests against the government or suing them for obvious stuff like the corruption scandals? Well, the Good Law Project is taking the government to court. I don't know if you've seen that. They are taking the government to court very recently, and that could get very interesting. That'll be happening next year, so that will be definitely something to watch when that starts to happen. But you are right. Labour aren't. They're a political party, not so much a protest movement, but that was what was good about momentum. And losing momentum is going to affect the Labour Party, because not only did they bring so much more youthful voters into the party and get young people engaged in politics, but they were also very good at getting out and protesting and organising those types of things. So Labour potentially losing momentum could be a really general hit to them. Zig out morning. Anyway, so with that said, thank you very, very much Oh. I don't know if you heard that. And with that, the fat pony has sung. If Brexit deal is brought to Parliament, will Labour support it? It depends on the deal. It really does. But yeah, the horse gave me a like. Yeah. Well, absolutely fantastic, everyone. Thank you for joining me again in another Good Morning Walk. We hope to see you next week again for another Good Morning Walk. But do watch out for my videos this week to come. And of course, please do hit that like button on the way out. It does help out the channel. And of course, if you would like to support the channel a different way, I do have a Patreon link down below, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. Thank you to everyone who does support me through one of those two ways. Thank you very much for joining me again. And as always, if you can't be safe, be sensible, enjoy your weekend, have an absolutely fantastic time, and we'll see you all next time for another Good Morning Walk.